Welcome to the HuntFishTravel podcast, the first and longest running female hosted hunting podcast. She's fine-tuned her bow and sighted in her rifle. She has deer on the brain and is ready to go. But first, she's helping you navigate your trip of a lifetime. And now, here's your hostess, Carrie Zylka.
Welcome to the HuntFishTravel podcast. I am your hostess, Carrie Zylka. This week, we're talking to Julie McQueen about hunting mule deer in Arizona. The show notes for this episode can be found at the website huntfishtravel.net under the show tab. You can also find HuntFishTravel on the Outdoor Podcast channel, a brand new episode from a different outdoor podcast every single day, all in one RSS feed. This episode is brought to you by Real Avid. If you use a shotgun to hunt or to shoot clays or whatever, check out their Shotgun Micro Tool. It's a compact, function-packed tool that fits in the palm of your hand. Being able to fix on the fly means a lot to shotgunners, which is why any shooter worth their steel or lead will keep this 17-function tool handy for quick teardowns, choke tube changes, and many other tasks. Be sure to check it out at realavid.com. Find them on Facebook as well as YouTube. And if you follow me on Twitter at Carrie Zylka, keep an eye out for the tweets I tag them in. Be sure to give them a follow at realavid. In this episode, we're focusing on hunting Arizona. So Julie has a really interesting story. Her background is really quite unique, and we will talk about that in this episode. However, I would highly recommend you check out her interview with the Big Buck Registry. Just go to outdoorpodcastchannel.com/Julie to listen. Julie, welcome to the show. Thank you for taking the time to come on.
Well, thank you for having me on the show.
I am super excited.
Yeah, me too.
So you mentioned, where are you right now? You're a girls' weekend getaway with Jana Waller, correct?
That's right. Yeah, I'm actually at Jana's house right now. She's one of my best friends, and we lead parallel lives. We have the same job, the same friends, some of the same sponsors. So, we kind of get together even when we're not hunting and, just kind of do girl stuff, which, people would wonder what that might be. So like earlier today, we were up in the mountains picking wild berries. So that's kind of the things that we do, on girl trips, I guess.
That is wonderful. I love hearing, because people would think you each have your own TV show, that you would be in direct competition with each other. I love the fact that you guys connect on just the basic level.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. There's really no competition, not even a little bit. We're very supportive, and it's not just me and Jana. There's a lot of girls who are very supportive and very, we empower each other, and we can call each other if we need advice or if we need a contact at a certain company. And I think those days of competing for things are just long gone. We've learned that to have any longevity, you have to get along and have true friendships. So yeah, she's a huge blessing in my life. She's definitely one of my best friends.
Awesome. So let's talk a little more about Arizona. So tell us why you think people should consider it for their next trip to hunt mule deer.
Yeah, okay, so it's kind of funny. I don't have a background with Arizona in a big way. I've just hunted there quite a few times over the years. And you know how you find a place that you just feel connected to?
Yes.
You look forward to just going to this place, even if you're unsuccessful. I've rarely been successful in Arizona. It's not a state that I've really had a lot of success in the field, but it's one of the places where I've had the most fun, and I find it to be the most beautiful, and it's a pretty easy system there with the tags and licenses. It's one of those that I look forward to it because something in my soul just loves hunting Arizona.
That's awesome. I totally get it. And I think anybody who's hunted out of state in a couple different states, there's just that one that you just keep going back to.
Yeah, for sure. And for me, that's my state. I always tell people, I feel like part of my soul just lives there. It's just the most beautiful state.
That's awesome. So is Arizona, is it a lot of public land or is it mostly private?
There's a lot of public land, and pretty much every hunt that I've done in Arizona has been on public land. I think total huntable land, there's over 30 million acres. I think it's like 32 million acres in Arizona that's huntable, whether it's U.S. Forest Service, BLM, or state-owned properties. If you do your research, and, now with the internet, there's so many fantastic websites where, you just go on and figure out which area you're going to be hunting in and find the public land and the boundaries. And I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's definitely possible to find. I mean, there's over 30 million acres. Of course, there's somewhere for everybody out there.
That's awesome. You're right. Especially these days, as modern technology catches up to the modern day hunter, most of the DNR, their websites are fantastic with their interactive maps, and it's awesome.
Yeah, there's really no excuse anymore.
Right.
Not to know where you're at, or, yeah, we have all of these fantastic gadgets. I have Garmin watches that they'll tell me my exact boundaries and how far I can walk before I'm off of that unit or that piece of property. And, we really don't have any excuses anymore to make a mistake like that in the field.
Yeah, wholeheartedly agreed. So are there regional differences to hunting Arizona? Like, is it the west side of the state is different than the east side of the state?
So I usually hunt in one general area, but it is very different in the other areas. So, for example, I was talking yesterday with a friend of mine, and last year we were both hunting in Arizona around the exact same time during a late season hunt. And he was hunting, I think it's about a 2-hour drive north of where I was hunting. And he had 4 feet of snow, and I had just kind of relatively mild temperatures.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it can vary, especially in the late season. The weather conditions can be very different. The terrain is very different. So some places you'll have kind of a more flat area with a lot of trees, which makes it kind of difficult to do any like spot and stalk, elk hunting or whatever. But then the places where I hunt out there, it's more wide open, ridges, a couple of, mountain ranges and stuff. So, all you have to do is drive an hour or so and you get a totally different view, which is part of why I love the Western states so much.
Do you use an outfitter when you're out there? I can imagine that it would be tough because I'm assuming you're out there filming for a TV show. I can't imagine you and your crew and everybody are just like, let's just pick this spot and just tromp around and hope we find a deer.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. So we've actually used an outfitter out there a few different times. The one that we've always used is called Big Chino Guide Service. And it's one of those where we booked them the first time and I just liked them so much that we kept going back to the same one. I'm sure there's a lot of really good guides out there, but you know how you just kind of going back to the same one over and over. You develop a friendship, and it's almost like a family atmosphere in camp. So we do use guides once in a while, but we've also done unguided. So we'll go out there, my husband and I will go out there and we will figure out the boundaries and we know where to go since we've been in that area quite a few times. And we'll actually just wing it. We'll do a lot of glassing and act like we know what we're doing. and we're not usually successful, but some of our best moments have come during those times where we're really struggling to even find a deer. We're not seeing any animals, but we're out there alone, just kind of doing it ourselves and taking ourselves back to that primal place where hunting began, where you sit on a ridge and you might not actually take an animal that day, but you're going to try your hardest and enjoy every second of it.
So let me ask you kind of off the cuff here. The first time I ever interviewed like TV folk was Jody and Brandon Carter from The Real Shot. And I always assumed that TV folk go out there with like a cameraman for each person. Do you guys have cameramen that go with you, or do you do like they do where one day he hunts and she films and the next day they trade off?
We do both ways. So we actually own a production company of Nashville. My husband and I own it together, and we do a lot of, even outside of, just TV shows, we do commercials and, short video, short films for different companies. So we have a lot of cameramen who work on a rotation for us. So we typically have a cameraman with us all the time, but there are times when we will just film each other. We call it old school one-on-one. I'm behind the camera and he's hunting, and then we switch. Sometimes that's more enjoyable, to be honest. I know it seems very glamorous to have a cameraman, but sometimes it's just nicer not to have that additional person. You don't have to worry about another person's scent or movement. When you're doing a stalk, if you have more than 2 or 3 people, someone's going to have to stay behind. So yeah, we kind of, depending on what type of hunt it is, for example, if we're doing a wing shooting episode, we definitely have a cameraman. We bring one of our guys, and that way, we can both shoot and have a good time. But on a lot of the big game stuff, like we just aired an episode of our new show and we filmed each other. It was a whitetail hunt. And during the episode, there's actually a part where, there's a deer and we're not sure yet who's going to shoot it. And we're passing the camera back and forth between each other. And, it's like we both had our bows right there. And, it's just one of those situations where it's like kind of funny when you look back on it that, we're just sitting in a blind filming each other, kind of. I'm not going to call it amateur, but
sure,
it's very, it's old school. It's how we all used to do it.
Not
Yeah.
So stressful and taking yourself so seriously.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. And, those, it seems like we remember those the most, where we really get behind the camera and really get our creative juices flowing on it.
Do you ever go out hunting by yourself and then film yourself?
We do. Yeah. Sometimes if we're on a time crunch and we have just a couple days to fill multiple tags or whatever, I'm not going to say that I've been very successful filming myself. I'm more, I've got to focus on one thing. I'm either hunting or filming, but my husband has managed so many times to turn the camera on, focus it, point it in the right direction, everything looks great, and then he shoots the animal, he gets the kill shot, he actually films it running away, and then I'm looking at the footage afterwards going, wow, I can't even tell that you filmed this yourself.
That's
it looks fantastic.
I swear.
It is.
Talent,
yeah.
Because...
Yeah. Yeah. And if he was here right now, he would say, I'd rather be lucky than good, which, a lot of times that's what it takes. And, we do, once in a while we do that. We try not to, because the footage always looks better if you have somebody else filming it. And for what we do, it just, it's necessary to have someone else filming. But there are times, in the past where he's self-filmed some of his kills, and I've attempted to, but I'm not going to say I've been very good at it so far.
That would be me too.
That's my mentality. I need just one thing to focus on.
Right, seriously.
Which, and sometimes because we do know that, that he's better at that, sometimes we'll send a cameraman with me and then Daniel will go film himself.
Oh, sure.
And that way, at least one of us is going to have really good footage from it. So once in a while, depending on the situation, we'll leave a cameraman behind. But for the most part, we've got him with us all the time.
Sure. And what was the name of your production company?
Our production company is called Backstage and Backroads Productions. Really long name. And the way we actually came up with that is that was the name of Daniel's first TV show on Sportsman Channel. So, and this is going back quite a few years. This is like 15 seasons ago. He developed this idea for a show, and he's a country music artist out of Nashville. So Sportsman Channel at the time, back then, thought it was a fantastic idea. No one was doing this yet. So they started this show, Backstage and Backroads. And I think it was on for 6 or 7 seasons and did really well. We ended up taking ownership of the show. And then after, I want to say season 6 or 7, we put it to the side and focused on a new show that we started producing and hosting. But we kept the name Backstage and Backroads for the production company. So now that company handles all of the video projects that we do.
Good deal.
Yeah.
So if anybody's looking for some production work.
Yeah, we do a lot of that. And it's funny, we get this question a lot, like, how can you make a living doing this? What's the secret? How do you do it? And for us, the secret is production work. That's our bread and butter. We do commercials, and we do a lot of like product review videos for companies. We do just a ton of different, like TV show pilots. We do a ton of those for people who want to have a TV show. Yeah. So we go, and since we have years and years of experience doing this and top of the line equipment, well, we might as well help other people get started with their dreams. So we go film their pilots for them. And so the production company is really what we focus on a day-to-day basis. And it just happens to also run the TV show that we host.
I've kind of noticed that, like, it's very rare that there's a TV show with a host or two, and that's all they do. It's
Yeah, that's very
you
rare.
kind of have to have some sort of a day job, whether it's selling some sort of a
Mm-hmm.
product or guiding or whatever, you know. I think the people who
absolutely.
think that, oh, I just want to have a TV show because that's all I'm ever gonna do. No,
Yeah.
probably
Yeah, good
not.
luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if someone can accomplish that, then I will be so proud of
Right?
them
More
for
power
sure,
to
because I
ya.
know, yes, I know how much work goes into it, and
Yeah.
I know how you have to dedicate your whole life to this. It's not like a weekend thing.
Right.
You can't just go out once in a while. I mean, we don't get days off. We work nonstop every day. Even on our days off, we're still working, and that's part of the deal. You know, you have to really love this to do it full time. And you're right, most people who do this, they also still have something on the side where they have to pay the bills that way.
Right.
So yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what other states have you hunted mule deer in? Maybe what are some of the differences between those states and hunting Arizona? Because I can imagine that hunting Arizona might be similar to hunting Nevada, but it's totally different than hunting Utah
Yeah.
or South Dakota or Tennessee.
That's right. Yeah. So in the past, I've actually filmed quite a few mule deer hunts in different states, which was really fun because for me, I get to, there's like a creative outlet there for me. If I get behind a camera and I get to film somebody taking their first mule deer, which I've done quite a few times, that's really fun. That's an experience, letting someone else pull the trigger. So I've filmed quite a few, like in Montana. I filmed, let's see, I think mostly Montana on those when we take somebody on a trip, because they have a general deer tag where you can shoot a whitetail or a mule deer, and that's a really good tag to get for people. Let's see, Arizona. Oh, I drew a Utah mule deer tag for this year. So I've got the yes, and it's my first time ever hunting mule deer in Utah. So I'm really excited. That hunt's coming up in a couple weeks. We're going to road trip out there. So it's like an early season hunt. So obviously it's going to be a little warm, but the bucks are still in velvet. I'm excited because it's not the style of hunting that I'm used to. I'm used to that late season. The bucks are rutting. This is a totally different style of hunting for me. So kind of excited about it. And then right after Utah, we hop over and we do a Nebraska mule deer hunt on opening day. So those are two coming up, I mean, just in the next 2 or 3 weeks from now, that, I'm trying to wrap my head around. It's a different style from what I'm used to, like, for example, in Arizona or Montana.
That's cool. Utah is definitely on the bucket list.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And this is actually, believe it or not, my first year putting in for the draw, and I just happened to draw a tag. So
congratulations.
Thank you. I don't think I've ever been so excited about an email coming through. I saw the, little successful in all, caps. I just kind of like yelled and got up and ran away from my desk when it came through. So that's a really big deal for me to actually draw that tag. But yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm excited to see how different it is from the ones we've done in the past.
Circling back to Arizona, are the non-resident tags very expensive out there? Because it's so freaking weird to me, depending on what state. Iowa's like $600, Wisconsin's $160. It makes no sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And, when you start hunting multiple states, you notice which states have a more reasonable fee for a non-resident, or which ones are easier to buy your tags in. Some people just don't have the patience to put in for a draw. So one thing that I really like about Arizona is late season mule deer hunt in Arizona. And believe it or not, it's over-the-counter tags. And it's a buck tag. So you go out in January, basically, when, most other people are done hunting and moved on to other things. And it's, let's see, I want to say the license is about $160, maybe, something like that. And then the tag was $3 something. So for $450, you get your license and tag. I think that's what it is. It's somewhere around there. It's really not that bad. I mean, all things considered, for a really good hunt and something that's memorable, and it's over the counter. You just, I mean, I literally walked into Walmart when we got there last year and just bought the tag right there at the counter. So those, nice to mix a few of those in instead of, having to draw your tags every year, especially when they're affordable. I think that is. I really think that's a reasonable price for a mule deer hunt where there's good quality deer and there's an abundance of them. Obviously the populations are at a point where they can do that. They can sell over the counter tags and still know that the next year the populations will stay in check.
So say this girl from Wisconsin that wanted to go to Arizona to hunt mule deer. What would be like a really good tip that you would give me?
Okay, so here's my tip for that. Because it is an archery hunt. So, it's the late season, archery stuff. Practice at really long distances, longer than what you think you're going to need, because out west, it's almost like everything, the distance is very deceiving. So what you think is a 50-yard shot is probably 60 yards by looking at it.
Okay.
So I've actually missed some deer because the distance was not what I thought it was. It's not the terrain that I'm used to shooting in every day at home. The animals are so big. You might think they're closer. So I really struggled with that. I now keep a rangefinder strapped to my neck at all times just for that reason, because I learned you have to range everything out there because it's very deceiving. I've started practicing at longer distances because there's been some shot opportunities that I didn't feel comfortable with, because you're only practicing out to 40, 45 yards and you have a 190-inch mule deer at 60 yards. Well, you can't take the shot if you haven't been practicing it.
Yeah.
So, I had a situation a few years ago where I shot over the back of a deer and I completely missed him. And it was just horrible because it was the biggest deer I've ever seen. And, in my mind, I thought, if I could go back in time, I would have practiced at longer distances for sure. The other tip would be maybe do some hiking to get in shape, because once you get out there, the higher altitude in some of the areas and, there's a lot of walking involved. So, try to kind of get your endurance up a little bit, because you don't want to be miserable when you get there and you decide, you have to hike this ridge, but it's 1.5 miles to get to where you need to go. And then by the time you get to your stopping point, you can't function because you're so tired.
Yeah.
So that's why we preach kind of trying to stay in relatively good shape year round and, get your endurance up before hunting season and do the things that you need to do to make sure that you're able to take those shots after you've been hiking all day.
Yeah, that's a good point. All the times that I've been out in Utah, the elevation, I was like, I'm not out of shape. Why am I huffing and puffing like this? My lungs aren't working. This is horrible. I can't even imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got like all your gear on you and
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We'll carry 50 pounds of camera gear in our backpacks and try to hike these. Yeah, it's miserable. But we train year round for it. And, that's why some people think, they just work out so they look good in their clothes, whatever. No, I really know what it's like to not be able to breathe when I'm in the middle of trying to get a perfect shot on something. And to me, that's crucial. I can't be the last one up the hill and the guys are waiting on me at the top, and there I am struggling to get up the rocks. Yeah, I don't want to be that person.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. It's kind of I like to prove that I can do everything that they can do. So I practice year round. I really try to keep that endurance up. And I know there's a whole fitness thing going through the hunting industry the last few years, and I like it. I love that. I think it's great that people are really trying to incorporate that health and fitness into their hunting lifestyle. And I see a ton of benefit in that for sure.
Yeah, agreed. Have you always been into hunting, or how did you get involved in hunting?
I have not. I'm not from a family that hunts, actually. I was the first one in my family to start hunting when I was old enough to kind of start knowing what I wanted to do, which would be in my late teens, close to being 20 years old. I was around 18, 19, I think. I just started researching it, and I would go to the bookstores and get books and magazines on hunting and rifles and I didn't even know what type of animals lived in what states. I was from a very small town in Oklahoma. Nobody I knew hunted, but something inside of me wanted to know. So I started doing my research, and I moved to Missouri and I started doing some hunting there. And, my first hunt, I shot a deer and I was alone. And it was the first time I'd ever seen an animal die, which is amazing to me, that I actually accomplished this. And it made me feel like, wow, I feel like it's already inside of me. Like it's what I want to do. And now I'm proud to say that both of my parents are hunters now. Yeah, so it was kind of backwards, after I started getting into it, my parents both kind of picked it up and now they both do a lot of hunting also. So, yeah, and that just goes to show, if your kids want to be involved in it, but the parents aren't hunters themselves, it's okay. I think people need to embrace that. And there's something inside of some kids that just feels like they want to go into the field and get their own meat. So for me, that's quite a success story, I guess is a good way to put it.
Sure.
Most people go, oh yeah, I was brought up hunting, but I'm just so...
Not only that, I can imagine that most people assume that because you and your husband hunt together, that you have a TV show together, that, oh, he must have gotten you into hunting. That they have no idea that you're like, please, I went out and did it myself. Like... Right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, he had nothing to do with it.
That's
awesome. I was actually in the industry way before I met him also. So I think that couples who hunt together, no matter what level that's on, some couples just like to go fishing together. And I think that's fantastic. But I think it does create some type of a bond, something about going into the field together and getting the food that is going to be on your table for the next 6 months and kind of going through that whole life situation together of putting the work in and harvesting the animal. And, I get really excited when I talk to people on social media who will message me and say, oh, my wife just started hunting. What type of bow should I get for her? And I'm like, this is fantastic. This is couples time for you guys. Yeah. So yeah, I just love that.
That's great. So I know you mentioned that you have a new TV show. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Daniel Lee, my husband and I, started this new TV show, and we had been on network TV for collectively, since the beginning of his first show, around 15 seasons. So it was somewhere around that number. So a long time. We were a very established network TV couple, and we noticed that a lot of people are not watching TV anymore. We don't watch TV. We watch everything digitally now. So we actually switched over and we air on CarbonTV, which is a digital platform. It's just fantastic. It's free. You can watch it on your phone. There's an app for it. It's streaming video, really good quality programming. So we actually started this show called Till Death Do Us Part. And it's kind of our adventures around the world. It's based around hunting and fishing, but it's also a lifestyle show. So you see a lot of camping and hiking and, just us kind of out there doing our thing together. We do air on CarbonTV, which means there are no air times. You can watch it anytime you want. So, in the old days, I would have to say, oh, we air it Thursdays at 3:00. But now you just go on and watch it on demand anytime you feel like watching a hunting show or a fishing show. So it's been really successful so far. I think we're the first established network people to completely jump away from the TV networks and go strictly digital, which I think a lot of people are going to start doing the same thing eventually. Yeah. It just seems like the wave of the future, in my opinion. We've found a lot of success in it. It's been just wonderful. And all of the people who follow us, they've given us great feedback. They love the fact that they can, maybe they don't want to watch the show until they're laying in bed at 9:00 at night. And, oh, hey, I want to catch up on the episodes. So it's been really good for us. It's been a good change, and the show is fun and lighthearted, but it's also very real. We don't cut out the bad stuff. You'll see me miss animals, and you'll see me cut my finger off, on a turkey hunt. You'll see all of that stuff that actually happens in the field, which, I think is crucial for people to see what really happens, not just when you make a perfect shot. It needs to be how it really unfolds and how the story really happened.
I think that's wonderful. I definitely, it's It's so annoying. I'd rather just binge watch
Mhm.
stuff. Like, you know what I mean?
Right?
Because like,
Yeah.
like you said, we're all busy. Gone are the days when the wife can stay home and watch the soap operas. We all have jobs. We all have long commutes. You know, like
Mhm.
we need
Yes,
to be people with
absolutely.
kids. They can't watch
Yeah.
stuff until it's bedtime. And I think
Right.
I love the fact that it's
Yeah.
on Carbon. I really like the Carbon TV whole network. I think they have some really
Mhm.
amazing shows on there.
They really do. I mean, I'm always impressed with it, and they've been fantastic to work with, and they really embraced our idea when we went to them with it, and we said, we really feel like a lot of our fans over the years have said, "Oh, sorry, can't watch your show anymore. I either to cut costs, I turned off my cable, or I don't have TV anymore. We don't use it. I watch everything on my laptop." And that's what we were hearing a lot from the fans of our old show, and
Sure.
that we kind of started thinking, wow, maybe we need to be more accommodating and switch over to a platform that everybody has access to, not just the people who live in a certain area or who can afford to have TV. So yeah, it's been a really positive change for us.
And kudos to you guys for taking the input, basically of your customers or the people who are watching your show. Kudos to you guys for placing a high level of value on their input, because a lot of people don't.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, where would we be without those people? If nobody's watching our content, then we need to go find a new job. So we're very, very religious about remaining in contact with people through social media. I respond to almost everyone who reaches out to me through social media in some way, except for the crazy people. Those,
Right.
there's always going to be the ones that you just block them right away.
Yeah.
But for the most part, anyone who reaches out with a question or a comment, or even some people will, say, "Hey, you guys need to go do this. We'd love to see an episode in this state or that state." Really take that to heart, because we think, well, if they took the time to write into us, then we need to take the time to say, "Oh, wow, okay, then we need to, hear them out. There's a reason why they're writing to us." So
I love that mentality.
and I love social media because of that. I mean, how cool is it that people can actually get in touch now so easily if it's done in a positive way, in the right way. I have a lot of people who reach out and they just want to say, "Hi, hey, love what you're doing, keep it up." And then some people will write in and say, "Hey, I have a question. Let me ask you about a piece of your equipment," or whatever it is. And those are the things that I'm just so impressed with, that we have this connection that's on a personal level now with people who follow our adventures.
I think that's the grand mark of success, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
when you have that connection with such a fan base.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And even on the days when I'm really busy and maybe I don't really want to open my Instagram app, like I don't even want to look at it, I do. I open it and I go through and I try to respond to every single message that has come through, because I think it's going to make somebody's day in some way that I took the time to write them back or to answer a question. And, I really try to focus on that these days. I want that personal connection with everybody.
Same here. If you're going to take the time out of your busy day to send me a message or tweet at me or whatever, I'm definitely going to take the time to answer you. I love that attitude.
Right.
But so many people don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
annoying.
know. And it drives me nuts.
I know, right?
I know.
Like,
I see a lot of them.
Big time.
Yeah. I know. And I get it. We all have busy schedules. But I mean, I pray I never get that busy. I never want to be at the point where I have to shun people just to keep up with my schedule. Then I don't think that's a blessing anymore. So
agreed. So speaking of social media, why don't you tell the listeners where they can find out more about you and the show?
Sure. Okay. So I am on Instagram. Obviously, I love Instagram. I love the visual part of it. I flip through all the photos and stay in touch with people that way. Instagram, my name is Jules McQueen. Most people call me Jules because, Julie, Jules. So Jules McQueen on Instagram. And then Facebook, I have a Facebook fan page, and it's Julie McQueen. And Twitter, I want to say, is also Julie McQueen. So those are pretty much the three major social media places that I stay in touch with people on a daily basis. We do have a Instagram page for our TV show for Till Death TV. And I want to say it's Till Death and then _TV. And we also interact a lot with the followers through that. And then we do have a Facebook page also for Till Death Do Us Part.
And I'll link to all these in the show notes as well so people can find them if they're not super social media savvy.
I love it. And you can also usually just Google someone's name and all their social media accounts pop right up, you know, which I think is so cool. I know that on my Facebook page, I have a thing on there where it says, follow me on Instagram. So it's all kind of in one location, you know, but I love that. I love when people get in touch and say, hey, I heard your podcast, or hey, I heard, you know, I saw you here, you know, watch this episode. It makes my day every time, even after years of working on this. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your girls' week, out of your relaxation to talk about hunting.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No, it was perfect timing. We went up and picked a bunch of huckleberries from the high altitude and came back, and now I get to talk to you about what I love most, which is hunting. So, right. I mean, I'm living a very good life today. You know, it's just one of those where you count your blessings, and especially talking about mule deer hunting and one of my favorite states, obviously Arizona. And I encourage people to try it, even if it's a long road trip for them or they aren't sure where to even start. Go to some hunting forums online. I'll tell you what, you can find some really good information online. And some of the forums, just Google hunting in Arizona or what unit should I hunt Arizona. And depending on what you're looking for, I mean, it's all right there. They lay it all out for you. So I always encourage people to take an hour out of your day and do a little bit of research and then just jump into it. Go out there and figure it out. And even if you're not successful, that's okay. A lot of us aren't, you know. Right. That's not the reason I keep going back. It's not because I've killed a huge deer there. It's because I love that hunt. I live for it.
And that'll do it. Thanks so much for listening. Don't forget to find the show on iTunes. Just search for HuntFishTravel Podcast. Hit the subscribe button. You can also follow me on social media. Just go to huntfishtravel.net and click on the social media icon of your choice. The only one that's not listed there is Periscope. You can always find me on Periscope, same Twitter handle, @Carrie Zylka. Until next time.